Welcome to Strong, Confident, and Informed, the podcast where we go beyond surface level fitness advice and actually help you understand what's driving your results. I'm Danielle Lemoyne, an online fitness coach who helps women build strength, lose fat, and most importantly, stay consistent without constantly starting over. In today's episode, I'm gonna be a little bit more direct, not harsh, not shamey, but just honest, because I think sometimes we spend so much time talking about motivation, mindset, our hormones, routines, and all of these other things that we end up avoiding talking about the actual disconnect that's happening. And the disconnect is this. A lot of people say they want results, but their daily actions don't actually support those results. And I know that can sound confronting, but I need you to stay with me through this episode because this is not about perfection. Okay? This is not me saying you need to eat perfectly, train perfectly, or become obsessive. This is about becoming honest. Because you cannot change something you refuse to acknowledge. And honestly, this is one of the biggest things I see in coaching. Someone will tell me, I really want to lose fat. I want more energy. I want to be stronger. I want to feel more confident. I want to stop starting over. But then when we actually look at their week, their habits are telling a completely different story. And this is where people get frustrated because they think wanting the results badly enough should automatically create the result. But desire alone does not create change. Your routines do. Your choices do. Your consistency does. And I think this is hard for people because most of us do generally want the outcome. The intention is real, but intention without aligned action doesn't move your life forward. For example, you say you want more energy, but you're sleeping 5 hours a night, or you're skipping meals all day, drinking barely any water, and relying on caffeine just to survive. You say you want to feel stronger, but you avoid challenging yourself enough in your workouts and you're staying with the same weights because it feels safer. Or how about you say you want to lose body fat, but every stressful week completely pulls you out of your routine. You say you want consistency, but you only take action when you feel motivated. And again, this isn't judgment. This is awareness. Because awareness is where the change starts. I think one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck is because they're constantly negotiating with themselves. And I've talked about self-negotiation before on the podcast because it's such a massive issue. You tell yourself, I'll start Monday, I'll do it tomorrow, the week was busy, or you deserve a break, right? And slowly over time, those tiny negotiations become your lifestyle. And what's difficult is that most of these choices don't feel dramatic in the moment. Skipping one workout doesn't seem like a big deal. Ordering takeout one extra night doesn't seem like a big deal. How about staying up late one more night? Doesn't seem like a big deal, right? But your life is built from those repeated choices, not isolated moments. And I think deep down, a lot of people know this. I think most people already know where the disconnect is. They just don't want to look at it because it feels uncomfortable. But avoiding the truth keeps you stuck longer. And this is where I want to shift the conversation a bit. Because I don't want this episode to become you're not doing enough. That's not the point here. The point is about alignment. Because sometimes the issue isn't effort. Sometimes the issue is that your systems don't support the goal you claim to want. For example, if your goal is fat loss, but your environment is constantly setting you up to fail, that matters. If you're overwhelmed every night and have zero plan for your meals the next day, that matters. If your weekends completely erase your weekdays, that matters. If your expectations are unrealistic, that matters. And this is why coaching is never just about macros and workouts. It's about looking at the full picture. Your habits, environment, stress, your routines, your patterns, your capacity, because all of those things impact your results. And one of the biggest mindset shifts I had to personally learn was understanding that my goals required a version of me that operated differently. Not perfectly, just differently. The version of you who gets results likely plans ahead more. She follows through more often. She moves even when they don't feel like it. Recovers intentionally, stops relying on motivation, and she stops constantly starting over. And that doesn't happen accidentally. It happens through repeated choices. And honestly, this is where I think social media has damaged people a bit, because we're constantly seeing before and afters, some motivational quotes, those 12-week transformations, and it creates this illusion that results come from intensity. But most real transformations come from boring consistency. It's the walk after dinner, the protein-focused breakfast, the workout you almost skipped but you didn't, going to bed early, tracking for another day, repeating those basics long enough for them to work. And I know that's not flashy at all, but it's true. I also think people underestimate how much their identity affects their behavior. Because if deep down you still see yourself as someone who always quits, or someone who struggles with consistency, someone who can never stay on track, your actions will continue reflecting that identity. So sometimes the shift isn't, how do I get more motivated? Sometimes the shift is, what would the version of me who gets results actually do here? Would she skip the workout because she's not motivated? Or would she still do something? Would she completely spiral because dinner wasn't perfect? Or would she just move on? Would she keep waiting for the perfect week? Or would she start with what she can do now? That's the difference. And this is why I always say your habits are telling the truth. Not your intentions, not your goals, not your Pinterest board, not your saved TikToks or Instagrams. Your habits. Because your habits show you what you prioritize, what you avoid, what you self-sabotage, where you actually follow through, and where your environment helps or hurts you. And when you start looking at your habits honestly, without shame, you can finally start changing them. Now, I also want to say something important here. There's a difference between struggling and not caring. And I think sometimes people hear direct conversations like this and immediately feel guilt. But struggling does not mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're incapable. A lot of women are carrying stress and overwhelm, mental load, exhaustion, even emotional eating patterns, and that all or nothing thinking. So sometimes what looks like inconsistency is actually burnout. And this is why your approach matters, because if your plan is too extreme, you won't sustain it. If your expectations are unrealistic, you'll constantly feel behind. And if your routine only works on those perfect weeks, it's not a realistic routine. So part of alignment is also building habits you can actually maintain, not habits that look impressive for 10 days. Because anyone can go all in temporarily. What's harder is building a lifestyle you can repeat consistently. And honestly, that's the real flex. Not losing the 15 pounds quickly, not doing 75 hard, not surviving on motivation. The real flex is staying consistent during stressful weeks, getting back on track quickly, following through more often than not, trusting your process, and building routines that support your life instead of consuming it. So, if you've been feeling stuck lately, I want you to ask yourself honestly, where is the disconnect? Not from a place of shame, but from a place of awareness. Are your actions supporting your goals? Or are your habits pulling you further away from them? And what's one thing you could start aligning with this week? Not 10 things, Just one. Maybe it's planning your breakfasts, going for a walk more consistently, strength training twice a week, drinking more water, stopping the All-Start Monday cycle, getting to bed earlier. There are so many things that we could choose. Just one thing. Start there. Because big change usually starts with small, repeated decisions, not one giant moment of motivation. And I think that's what I really want you to take from this episode. You do not need to become a completely different person overnight, but your current routines cannot create completely different results forever. Something eventually has to shift. And the good news is, you're capable of shifting it. If this episode resonated with you, come hang out with me on Instagram at DL Fitness Coaching. Send me a message and let me know what landed for you. And if you're ready for support applying this in your own routine, you can find all the details about my coaching in the show notes. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.